Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chenard. I'm here with Glen Willis and Tyler Jones. We're recording on a Wednesday night, in between a Pacer game and a Bucks game. The Hawks did not win that game against the Bucks. It was kind of a tough schedule spot, but the Hawks kind of match up reasonably well with the Bucks. What went wrong in that game?
Um, to me, I think the issues were twofold. One, though I thought Mo Gay played pretty well, like for him, I think there was some nuance to his game, particularly on the defensive end, that was lacking. Uh, like uh, Too often when he went to double Giannis, he was either too early or too late, and so
That's a good
and that's like kind of his biggest problem as a player right now is his lack of timing. His timing is just not very good. It felt like after a while, the Hawks really just told Bo, just go early and we'll deal with it on the back end. And that made, that helped in some ways in that he wasn't giving up three-shot fouls. He wasn't late to just giving up easy dunks because he needed to be there at the help. Primary and like a lot of like what Hawks fans have to understand when you play the Bucks and they have Dame Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, Onyeka, if he's guarding Giannis, has to play at the level. And so if he's playing at the level, the low man's timing has like Mo just has to be better and more solid as a rim protector. And I thought, whereas when they played the Bucks earlier without Giannis, Mo could just coast a little bit better on his athleticism. When he's not the most gifted athlete on the floor against a Giannis Antetokounmpo, he has to be more aware of what Giannis is trying to do on the floor, where he's trying to go with the ball in his hands, when he what's a feint, what's an actual drive to the rim. And I thought Mo was kind of lacking though, even though I think overall he played well enough for what he is. I just think his limitations on both sides of the floor really hurt them overall. Uh, and it just and then the Niang Capella minutes in the second half against a bad Bucks lineup, like that was just brutal. Like Niang was struggling to keep struggling in switches against KPJ, which can't happen. Like uh uh Porter Jr. is not a good point guard. Like he should not be able to get to wherever he wants to on a switch against an NBA caliber player. And like Niang was just too slow for him. And then Capella and Niang, when those two are together, there's just a real lack of foot speed on the back end, and like they were giving up easy offensive rebounds. That lineup in particular wasn't punishing the Bucks for a bad offense and defensive lineup. I thought overall Trey had a pretty mediocre game for himself. Whereas against the Grizzlies, I actually thought he played pretty well, even though he didn't shoot well. But like that's kind of where it came down to me. Like, granted, like they still had a chance in the fourth quarter, like late, but that comes down to variance and like Dame and Giannis were making their shots and Trey wasn't. Trey and LeVert weren't, and that was kind of the difference at the end. But like to me, the 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 talent difference was the bigger issue. Where it's like if Jalen is on the floor playing healthy, you could put Jalen on Giannis, and now Yeka is the help player. Now like Jalen can just switch. Can just switch any Dame pick and roll with Dyson because he knows he's got Onyeka behind. Onyeka can't just switch onto Dame and then trust that Mo Gay's going to eventually get to where Giannis is going to go, like because he has to help Dyson. So I just think there's just some, it's Jalen's a great player, like flat out, and they really miss him, and the Hawks are just kind of trying to piecemeal a Jalen Johnson through Niang and Mo Gay and even a little bit of Barlow, and like it's it they're doing okay in that they're no longer like just getting completely blown out, but it's just tough without somebody of Jalen's caliber on the team.
I like what you said about Mo Gay being early or late because there was a sequence of plays, I think it was in the first quarter, definitely in the first half, I think, where he was just always early.
Hmm.
And that was actually good for a while because if you're early, you're there, you're getting to the spot, you're there, and he was disruptive in those first few instances where he was showing up early. But then the Bucks were like, okay, hey, this is messing us up. What what else can you do? And he kept showing up early, and once he started doing that, there were openings behind him, and that you could just because he was so early, you just string it out and wait until there's space behind him, and they were getting behind him, so it was an easy pick. So that's a really good point. What what did you think about the Bucks game, Glenn?
I mean, generally, I was impressed with how much energy they had, the tough schedule spot. Like the Bucks had played since Saturday, but the Hawks played on Saturday and Monday, if I remember correctly. Is that how it went?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was their third game in the same stretch where this was the Bucks' first game. And so I mean, I thought it would be a tougher. I thought a number of things. One is like they closed with Moge, not Niang, so I think they recognized that they couldn't play Niang at the end. When they subbed offense defense at the very end, they did get him back on the floor for the offensive possessions, I think twice. So I thought that was a good decision. But I mean, the last 4 minutes, you could just tell they had no legs, and like jump shots just weren't going down. They just kind of ran out of juice. And which is a shame because they were right there. They were right
Yeah.
there, and right for the rest of the way, every single game matters for them to try to get in the 7 or 8. They're not getting the six. Six is too far up, away from them right now, unless something catastrophic happens to someone up there. But I mean, it's just the one thing that always kind of just like, makes me feel a little encouraged with the team is they keep fighting, they keep worrying, they keep competing. We you see the lack of size at times, like in a matchup like this, like, against the Bucks, that hurts them. Um, and just some matchup challenges right now, not really having a power forward that can go out and kind of give you veteran level power forward defensive play. I mean, Moget made several really impressive plays. The block he had was that one block he had was really impressive. Shot the ball well, and so I mean, it's encouraging to see that. But
Mm.
at the same time, for if the Hawks want to get to 7-8, they gotta win games, and that was one that would have helped them to have won.
If if the Grizzlies game wouldn't have been such a track meet, maybe it would have been
Yeah,
like they would have had more. Because I'm the listen, I was at the game. I had pretty good seats. The amount of energy Dyson Daniels gave in that Grizzlies game alone was incredible. The man was guarding Desmond Bain every second he was on the floor. He was Desmond Bain's primary guy. The Grizzlies, I think, for the first three or so quarters, did a good job trying to get Dyson off. So they were involving Dyson all the action. He's rotating all over the floor on defense. Then on offense, because of how the Grizzlies defend 94 feet, like they press up on like I've never seen a team play that physical on Trey Young just everywhere on the floor. They were like, we are going to try to manhandle Trey, and the Hawks countered by having just Dyson bring the ball up the floor and have Dyson run the offense. Like it was a lot of Trey Young setting back screens for Dyson and Dyson getting downhill. And so he's constantly attacking the rim, attacking the paint on offense, while also guarding the team's best player, uh, you know, all night. And like he gave it everything he had. Uh, you know, a Kongu, considering the pace, having to play 30 plus minutes as a center, and he had to play like honestly, he needed to play more because Capella was like I watched, I was like, Capella is struggling to get down the floor in the second half against Zach Edey. Like Edey's beating him down the floor like constantly, and I'm like, okay, they got to get, and I think the Hawks were really struggling with Capella in the game because the Grizzlies, they adjusted their rotations to where they were having Edey against Capella, and Edey was just like the more energetic player. Like there's Capella couldn't lean on his side And so like Capella was just having a harder and harder time, like keeping Edie off the glass, doing everything he has to do, and then run down the floor, run the offense, and then get back. Like it was a tough time for Capella on that end. So Congo had to play more. That's why like I felt like against the Bucks, they needed more offensively, more Congo, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't have it. Like he might not have had the legs. Like that's one of the fastest paced games I've ever seen live, like just
Yeah.
up and down. Like both teams were like, okay, you know what? We are make or miss. We're getting the ball up the floor quickly. We're attacking because in the half court, it's probably going to be an issue for both of the teams. Like, and we kind of saw that with Grizzlies late when they tried to slow the game down. Their half court offense just wasn't that very impressive. And so I just think the pace of that game, combined with the travel, combined with they already played on Saturday too. The Bucks, it was already an uphill battle. And so, like, you got a suboptimal Trey game. Dyson, I didn't think had the legs. Ricochet was I thought too passive offensively, and I see that a lot when it's the second night of back to back with him, where he just doesn't play with that level of force and aggression on offense. His defense is never really in question, but like offensively, it's just kind of comes and goes depending on his energy level. Just because he really's on, at his best playing in transition, but when you don't have the legs, it's just kind of easier to defend. So I think it was like a typical schedule loss combined with the lack of the Hawks having. I don't think it was like they don't have that many options. Like they tried to go with Keaton Wallace against in the Grizzlies to buy Dyson some time, but like they were getting like respect to Keaton, but like they were just getting ran off the floor and they had to get somebody back in the game. So I just think they're in a tough spot with all the injuries they have. I continue to say I really do think beyond Jalen Johnson, who's the obvious one, Larry Nance has been missed. Because I think the more I'm watching, I'm seeing where the Hawks having to adjust to what Capella can and can't do on both sides of the floor really hurts the rest of their team, and they're not built to support Capella at
Yeah.
all. And so like they really miss Larry Nance on really on honestly on both ends of the floor because now like they're having to ask Kongu to play. I mean, it's fine for a Kongu to play a lot more, but ideally you would want somebody like Nance to continue the play style that you're already doing with the Kongu. And so that's hurt them combined with no Jalen. I think no Kobe
Yeah.
Buffkin as well. It's really hurt them. Like it's just like these injuries have compiled and it's really kind of eating them late in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you said about the Bucks thing because that the pace of that Memphis game being so dramatic, it's like that's what they wanted to do against the Bucks, and they just couldn't. Like that's how you want to beat the Bucks. Like they're starting Torian Prince, Kyle Kuzma, Giannis, and Lopez. Like it's that lineup is madness, but like you
They
should
did it
be
in the
able to
first
push
half.
the pace against them, but you just you can't.
I
Not
I,
not
Yeah,
I
after
thought
that
they
but
Memphis game.
I thought they did it in the first half. The second half, it was just like, oof,
Yeah. They did it for
well, I
moments
mean,
for sure.
yeah, it's funny that in my preview I mentioned the Bucks are eighth in pace, and that's shocking, right?
I mean, I think that's a
And pace
pony. I
is
mean, you don't always get to dictate the pace. Part of the reason they're probably eighth in pace is other guys saying, "Hey, we need to run the heck out of them," and so the Bucks are forced to play with pace, not necessarily that they want to.
yeah,
and,
it's
and
interesting because they're eighth in pace and they're 28th in fast break points. So that
There you
tells you a
go.
lot about where the pace is
Sorry, I
coming
shouldn't have
from.
cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good. I just that didn't pop into my head until you made that point. But they do play kind of fast in the half court. Like they
Yeah,
like early shot clock. Like Doc believes in that, right? So they do drive a little bit of that, but it's not fast break transition. It's more attack a defensive forward. They're a veteran team. Attack a defensive forward set. Attack a mismatch early in the shot clock is where some of that comes from. But I mean, in that sense, the Hawks, the Bucks as a veteran team kind of knew what they wanted to do in the second half. Going back to the Grizzlies game, you know, it, you look at where the Grizzlies are. I think they're fourth in the West. I haven't looked today to see if that's still where they're sitting, but they have a lead, and they've got Luke Kennard on the floor. They got Desmond Bain on the floor. They got Jalen Wells on the floor. In their last six possessions, twice, Vince Williams Jr. had to create his own shot, and that was a tragic result on that possession. And another possession, he got the ball with 6 seconds left and was trying to run high pick and roll. He's the fourth best ball handler on the floor. In two of their final six possessions, he ended up late shot clock having to create. Desmond Bain cannot let that happen. Luke Kennard cannot let that happen. And those two possessions were massively um, factoring into the Hawks having a chance to win that game at the end. And that's just an example. Memphis moves the ball, they share the ball, but when you have a lead, you need someone to say, "We're not doing that anymore. We're gonna
Glenn,
milk the shot clock. We're gonna keep the ball in the ball hands in the hands of a responsible ball handler." Those two possessions killed. They were so negatively impactful to Memphis, and was a major reason why the Hawks won.
but like to my point, like the Hawks, like just like how the Grizzlies were attacking the Hawks in transition, the Hawks were doing the same to the Grizzlies, and they were putting Desmond Bain in a lot of action on the defensive side of the floor. They were constantly looking because I think the Hawks game plan was like, we're gonna wear Desmond Bain out. Desmond Bain's not what the game plan for Desmond Bain was to be the primary option for a for an NBA team on offense. And the Hawks were like, we're gonna do what teams do try to do with Trae Young. We're gonna constantly attack Desmond Bain to tire him out, take his legs out. And that worked combined with, for as good as Luke Kennard was, once Karis LeVert came into the game, like when Karis LeVert was the assignment on Kennard, and they had Dyson Daniels on Desmond Bain. All of a sudden, their real lack of like shot creation and ball handling kind of went up to the forefront because Karis LeVert did not respect any ball handler for the Grizzlies. Had zero respect. He was trying to get like he was pressing up, trying to force a turnover every chance he got, and that really kind of flipped the game in the fourth quarter. And I think with the Grizzlies were like, okay, we're going to try to just attack Trae, and that's where it ultimately ended up with
Vince Williams.
Williams. Vince Williams having the ball in his hands in the game where it's like, well, we got to attack somebody, but Trae Young guarded, Vince Williams, respect him, who I thought actually played a pretty good game for what he is, but it's where no John Morant really hurt them, combined with no Jaren Jackson Jr. on the defensive side of the floor really, really hurt them because they also were attacking.
Yeah.
Like Edie was like so slow, but they needed Edie out there because Okongwu was. I mean, both Okongwu and Capella did a good job against non-Edie bigs, but when Edie was in the game, at least his size forced the Hawks to make decisions on both sides of the floor. Like he forced help on offense, as just being as huge as he is. And then defensively, like you have to at least draw him out before you attack. Whereas when Edie wasn't in the game, the Hawks would just go into the paint unimpeded.
Yeah.
So like, without Jaren, like it really helped the Hawks and how they wanted to attack the Grizzlies.
Yeah. Edie, like in college, was really more of an. I don't know a lot of NBA fans who don't watch college. He's more of an offensive player, right? And for his size, he really has very little impact at the rim. I mean, they were finishing shots no matter where even if he was right in front of the rim, they were finishing shots. It's interesting the last play where Dyson got the steal, right? You could see they were trying to set up a screen to force Dyson off of Bain, and Edie was there and Wells was there, and Wells tried to set his first guard screen of the whole game, and it just whiffed, just straight whiffed, And I don't blame him. That's not something they've been asking him to do. Edie was 1 foot from Wells. It's like, how do you not get Edie to be the screener there and get Dyson off of him? But but at the same time, maybe Bain went a little fast.
Bain
Yeah, I'd
went
have to go back and watch it.
Bain went
Yeah,
fast.
Yeah,
he did.
They didn't call timeout because they didn't want to sub Trae out. They want what they wanted because Trae was guarding Wells, and this is where a lack of experience comes into play. Trae initially was guarding Wells. Wells turns his back to Trae. Trae immediately gets to LeVert to just switch, but he doesn't
yeah,
call it out. He just points at him, and they switch without talking. So because like I could, I was right there. I was literally right there, and like Wells didn't know that it was Karis LeVert behind him anyway. Besides the fact he didn't set a good screen at all. Like, and it's one of those things where it's like young player doesn't really know what he's doing, right. Setting a screen, has he done that in his career? And so like Dyson Daniels is good enough where he's not going to respect that. And Edie, like they didn't want to bring Edie into the action because they brought Edie up the floor. They would have just trapped Desmond Bain right then and there. And he was like, oh, you're going to give it to Edie on the last, possession of the game, 17 feet away from the rim, having to dribble to like Edie's shown no real ability to create that far away from the hoop with his back not to the basket. Like there was so like I think it was one of those things where I understand Jenkins should have just called the timeout after the whiff of the screen. Like once that screen whiff, it needed to be an auto timeout to like draw something up, if for no other reason to bleed the clock, because that was
Yeah.
a complete disaster for the Grizzlies.
Yeah, it was, and then I mean, I also want to go back to the charge that Trey drew, which was a huge play down the stretch, huge play. But the last possession, Dyson gets a steal. There's 4 seconds on the clock, and Levert just starts sprinting. Like, I mean, if he doesn't sprint from the in instant the Dyson gets that ball, he doesn't get that layup off in time. And Dyson's composure to just push the ball up the floor and trust Karras to get it and make that shot. And that was just really impressive composure at the end of the game, and Karras had good feel for where the clock was, and things like that. But thank goodness they didn't burn their challenge. And it's funny, Hawks fans might not know this, but the Hawks have one of the better challenge success rates in the league. Um, some games it feels like we could point to 4 or 5 games where they use the challenge early that you're just like, oh man, this doesn't feel like the right time to use your challenge. It feels like a coin toss review. Thankfully in this one they had that one because the referee that made that call was way on the other end of the floor. There's no way he actually saw what was going on.
Right.
And it's hard. I mean, there's 10 guys on the floor moving around. Yeah. I don't always want to like just hammer the refs. But thankfully the Hawks had that challenge. But that play that Trey made defensively was absolutely huge. Big play in the game. And fans that like to hate on Trey and don't watch the Hawks don't know that he comes up with big defensive plays down the stretch. Sometimes he'll get a rip on a ball handler. He makes some plays that matter, and that's an example of one that really did matter.
I mean, I'll defend the ref for a bit here because I was like I'm right under the rim basically. I didn't see Trey at all until after the play happened. Like I
Yeah.
see the guy goes up, and then I see like multiple people on the ground. I'm like, how did Trey get there? Then I see replay. So like I didn't see it live. I seen on replay. Like Trey just like sneaks in there and then gets himself into position. It was a great like just flat out an incredible play by Trey to like really get there because he was not initially like in the action. He saw that he was going to go for the layup, got his feet above the charge. So it was just overall great play and a great challenge. I didn't know what was going on because I was like, what they call? Like they're not announcing anything over live or whatever. But like yeah, no, the Grizzlies game was incredible. Like that's they just an aside, just NBA frustrates me how nationally the NBA is talked about because if you go to these games, they're incredible. Like they're
Yeah.
just and they're great like regardless of what arena you're in, like the fan experience is great. Like the sporting environment is incredible, and teams do it 41 games a season for their home crowds. And like I just nationally they're too focused on stuff that isn't about the game. Where if they like, I feel like if these national media types were in these arenas more often and watch like in the crowds watching games, how the crowds react to what's going on, like they'd be saying the NBA is doing incredible because it is like, Grizzlies for a Monday night work day against a Hawks team that's not that good. They're not bad, but they're not good. And it was like, and like people were animated and it was a great environment. So like I just really think I wish there wasn't such a disconnect between the local and national medias uh where how the NBA is covered because like the NBA is doing incredible if you're at the arena, you're going to the game every night and you're seeing like just how good these guys are, like in person compared to on a TV screen.
Yeah, yeah,
Can
yeah.
I ask
I
you a
mean,
quick? Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say the national media is. I mean, it's dumb. Like it's
Yeah.
Good
ESPN game
summary.
goes
Good
to
summary. Can I want
ESPN
to
game
ask
goes
you
to.
this question
I was
before we
like,
run out of time?
yeah, ESPN game goes to have halftime. I don't care what Stephen A. Smith has to say about the game. I literally don't care. Chuck doesn't watch games. Like it's obvious when and so there needs to be some sort of coordinated reboot around the way that people that have these rich contracts with the league to broadcast the game. If you turn on MLB.TV, they are promoting the stars across the baseball constantly, talking
Sure.
about how great the players are, et cetera, et cetera. You watch something on the NBA national media, and it's like they're just crapping on the product all the time. So anyway, that's my rant over, Kevin. Back
All
to you.
right. I want to ask you this because it bugs me a little bit. When Onyeka goes to the bench, what are the Hawks doing defensively with Clint Capella? And this is less about the Bucks game because the Bucks are a weird team. They're so big, and he was out there at times with Lopez and stuff like that where it was kind of normal. But there's all these other games, the Memphis game included, where he's up to touch, and I don't know what they're doing. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm missing something. But and you have to grant again, I don't think this was anybody's dream pairing. They made the trade with Larry Nance in mind. I think Nance was supposed to be the backup center here this stretch of the season.
For sure.
But like it just looks so easy for the other team because he's up to
It's
touch. And let's say, he's out there with Trey or somebody, they'll both be on the ball handler. Nobody's really impacting the ball handler. It's just one easy pass off the ball and then maybe one more, and it's a wide open three. And it's like, what are you getting out of these possessions where he's up to touch? Because it just doesn't feel right. It just looks so easy, and I don't know what I'm missing.
Yeah. So uh, quick quick primer. When you get your big to the level, or when you trap or hedge, the first goal is to make the ball handlers pick up his dribble. That's goal number one, right? Make him pick up his dribble. The second option, if you can't make him do that, a very advanced point guard, make him back out of the play and reinitiate the play. Right? Those are the two things that you're trying to make happen. When it's Trey and Clint or Clint, whoever right now, that's never happening. That's literally never happening. And so it's hard for me to, I don't know, defend or justify what's going on out there. And maybe they just need to play straight drop when Clint's in the game. Maybe that's something that, and I know it's hard to say when Nyeka's in, we're going to play him well at the four. We're going to, they switch a lot when Nyeka's on the four. They switch a lot, and to run something different when Clint's on there can be a little tough, especially when you got new players that are still getting acclimated. But, I mean, a question I have is like when they play the Pacers tomorrow, I look at that and I'm like, Clint can't play in this game. Like, I don't think Clint could play in this game. You know, he's just not switching into the
I
floor
mean, that's
fast
how I
enough.
felt about the Thunder game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I mean, for me, it's like, and we understand there can be some. I don't know if the right word is politics or NBA coaches just defaulting to their veterans or
Sure.
whatever that is. But it's bad. I mean, when I watch Clint play, I feel like the first maybe 90 seconds he's got some energy, and
yeah,
it's okay, and then like once you get to minute three or it just starts kind of degrading, and he missed a lot of time, with whatever it was, the back injury, back spasms or whatever it was, and stuff. But I mean right now I look at it and it's like, man, Anyaka, we need you to play like 37 minutes, because
I,
that's kind of where it is. And I'd rather see Tom play tomorrow than Clint,
yeah.
Okay,
and
we'll get Tyler's opinion on this next time. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, because we were talking about Edie earlier, or even Brook Lopez, how teams just attack Brook Lopez because he's so slow. That's what teams do when Capella's in the game. They know whoever Capella's man is, bring him up to the level of the screen because they know Capella either isn't going to show, or if he does, he's going to be too slow to get back or to challenge the ball handler or to really affect the play in any way. Like he's literally not moving. Like he's just he was his most impactful against the Bucks in his first stint because they didn't have a point guard and they were just literally running into him. Like they were just Like KPJ twice, like just ran right into Capella and Capella blocked the shot easy. Uh, but then when they got smarter and were like, just pull up for the 15-footer, it's going to be like if we set the screen, Capella's not going to come up. It's going to be a wide open free throw jump shot. And so like the Hawks were trying to manage that because they were like, we got to take because KPJ got hot, and they were like, we got to take something away against the Grizzlies. Like Desmond Bain, he was just automatic from the free throw line when Capella was in the game because there was just no pressure. Zach Edey sets one screen, and Edey's a good screener, but he sets one screen, he screens off whoever Bain's man is, and Desmond Bain's just taking a practice jump, and like Capella's just nowhere in the play, and not only that, he's not competing for these rebounds either. Like he can't rebound outside of his zone too, and so it's like it he I've never like he's had some stretches where he doesn't look great physically. This is the worst he's ever looked in the Hawks, and like it's been a real like it's just flat out been a real problem. I'm watching the game again, like I said against the Grizzlies. I'm like, man, he is puffing and buffing up the floor. And I tweeted out on Blue Sky that the Grizzlies just just knew that Capella just wasn't going to have the cardio to compete tonight, and they were just attacking unset defense and getting easy shot after easy shot after easy shot, and that's how they built their leads twice. And then a Congo would have to come in the game and bring some like foundation because he can switch. And so like it's one of those where it's like understanding. I'm watching. I'm like, man, I'd rather try Mo Gay and Don Barlow pairing at the 4 and the 5 than what they're doing with Capella right now. Because Capella Niang is far too slow. Um, for really any real NBA team that's serious about winning. The Hawks are trying. Like I thought against the Bucks, they did a good job of keeping Capella off the floor when Dame was in the game. But
Yeah.
with the second night of a back to back, there were going to be minutes where he had to play, just because you couldn't ask Conley to go 30 plus again.
Hmm.
So I just yeah, to me, I think they have to be more selective of when Capella plays and when he doesn't. But also, I think he's got to get in better shape, like just flat out, because like he's not moving.
Yeah, and in this game versus the Pacers, Miles Turner, they play five out with him. And Thomas Bryant sprints he plays so hard. He plays so hard.
Hmm.
But he's not some awesomely gifted center, but he does a lot of the small dirty stuff to help his team, or small detailed stuff, I maybe should say. And he will run Capella in the ground if that's when Capella gets on the floor in this game. So it's
And
as much
and,
as
and
I've
the,
appreciated Capella, like they need to work around him at times right now.
but the thing is, like Capella's like his calling card in the NBA is his physical gifts and his effort level and his like how hard he plays, how hard he runs. He's not giving that right now, and it's really hurting. Like it's really hurting everything the Hawks are doing on both ends. I can't stress this enough. Like it's just very because like his defense isn't good, and his offense is somehow worse. Like he made some hook shots against the Bucks that he probably shouldn't have taken, and then like if he misses those shots, it's an automatic 2 points down the floor because he's going to be the last man back on any shot it takes if he doesn't get the offensive rebound. And he's not getting offensive rebounds anymore either. So it's just not. It's really bad. Like there's no
I think he's getting
easy way
some
to say it.
offensive rebounds. I think he's getting some of those. I think
There's
you get a good
there's a
grip for
difference between
that.
getting offensive rebounds and what Capella used to do, which
I guess
was
so. Yeah, that's fair.
dominate the
Yeah, you used
offensive
to.
glass. He's not doing
Okay,
that.
fair. All right.
See what
Well,
happens.
oh, go ahead, Glenn.
Well, we'll see what happens tomorrow with the center position.
It's going to be it's Indiana at home and then Indiana at home again. So it's a double dose coming. Should be interesting. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me, and look forward to doing this again soon. Good night, Bob.
Good night, Bob.
Hey, Bob.